For the last 7 years, the final camo has been the penultimate reward for any Call of Duty grinder, and in Modern Warfare 2, it's the same story. So after 51 guns, 357 challenges, and 186 camos, I give you
You're not.
I definitely not.
Dude, no!
Come on. No, come on, Tyler. Oh, you're choking.
I'm choking, No, I'm choking. We won, Jared. I got one more. So as we come into the beginning weeks of Season 1, I wanted to make this video going over the entire grind for Orion, and I wanted to structure it in a really fun way. So I'm going to go over every weapon class, point out some highlights, some lowlights, and at the end, we'll put them all into the coveted difficulty tier list, with S being the easiest and F being the hardest. So let's get right into it. Alright, so starting us out is the ARs, which is probably the class that most people have used, and probably the class that most people have at least maxed out one gun on. And it's about what you'd expect, you know. ARs have always been kind of middle of the road, and that trend definitely continues with Modern Warfare 2. Personally, my two favorite were the TAC 56 and the STB 556. Both of them were super consistent and just nice guns to run around with. Overall, a very fun class, and the challenges were not too difficult. This year has stepped it way back in difficulty. However, there is one outlier, and it is absolutely the worst gun in the entire game. The M16 was awful. It was the worst gun in the entire game to get gold. Maybe even worse than the launchers and the riot shield, and that is really saying something about how bad this gun was. So on our tier list, it would be S for easiest, but just because the M16 is there, it's getting bumped down to A. And now on to... Now with SMGs, it's mostly the same story, except I'll have a little bit more to talk about since most of the guns stand out a bit more to me personally. One thing that made me really upset was the MP7 and the P90, my two favorite SMGs of all time, caught massive nerfs in this game compared to Modern Warfare 2019. However, most of them are still pretty good. A couple of the standouts to me are like the FSS Hurricane, which is like this weird M4 P90 combo, and like this little Vaznev, which is pretty much just a Bison with a normal magazine. All the SMGs will absolutely shred up close. I mean, the worst one is probably the AUG SMG, but even it is pretty good. And you would expect the long shots to be difficult with the SMGs, but I honestly had no problem just setting an invasion and picking people off. And obviously, with as good as the SMGs are in this game, most of the other challenges like 3 kills without dying and all that stuff was really no issue. And I'm sure you can tell, as easy as I'm making this challenge out to be, you know the SMGs are going to go right in on this tier list at a solid S tier. Absolutely one of the easiest classes in the game and one of the most fun. And now on to the AR's identical twin. Okay, so I'm recording this video in the order that you're seeing it, and I completely forgot that battle rifles come right after ARs, and so we're going to talk about those. Battle rifles in this game are kind of in a weird spot. They're kind of the in-between between Marksman Rifles and ARs. However, with most of the battle rifles, it really feels more like an AR than a Marksman Rifle. I mean, most of them even have the option to be fully automatic. So a lot of times when you're using them, you'll just feel like you're using ARs. So honestly, I feel like you could just get rid of this class entirely, but that's not what we're talking about in this video. But yeah, there's only 4 and most of them are all right. The Lockman 762 is actually really good. It's probably the best overall, only really competing with the TAC V, which is pretty much the Scar H for anyone who knows them by their real names. Honestly, a fairly forgettable class and a very middle of the road class as well. None of them are too good and none of them are really too bad. Difficulty wise, they'll probably be around the same as assault rifles. They don't necessarily have any outstanding stats or anything that's super weak. So with the Lockman 7.62 and the TAC V being pretty good and the FTAC Recon and SO14 being kind of middle of the road, plugging this in on a tier list, they're going to go into a solid B right in the middle. And now onto a bit more of a unique class. I'm sure you all know where this class is going to go, but I still want to talk about it for a minute. This was one of the most fun classes to go for in the entire game, just like shotguns have been for the past few years. Sadly though, this year there's not really any unique picks in the shotguns. With Modern Warfare 2019, you know, you had like the R90 and some really cool shotguns, but this year it's really basic. Even stuff like the semi-auto, like the Expedite 12, is really just kind of a basic pick to have in the game. Nothing really unique, and I hope that changes over the game's lifespan, because I'd love to see like a Spaz 12 or something. Difficulty wise, I'm already sure you guys know that the shotguns are going to be super easy to go for, really consistent up close, and most of the challenges are all up close. And even when you get to stuff like Platinum where it is long shots, the shotgun's long shot is like 15 meters, so you could really just throw on slugs if you're really struggling. Overall, difficulty wise, like I said, you guys know this is going to be one of the easiest, right there with the SMGs. So if we're plugging the shotguns into our tier list, once again, an easy S tier, right there with SMGs, some of the easiest guns in the game. Just wish they were a bit more unique. And now onto a class I'm actually really excited to talk about. Alright, so just a disclaimer for the rest of this video, it should have got done a lot earlier, but I ended up getting sick. So if for the rest of this video I sound really nasally or something, just know why. And on to the LMGs. So with the LMGs, I actually feel pretty much the exact opposite the way I do for the shotguns. So with the shotguns, you know, I think the picks are fairly generic and there's not enough, but the LMGs actually come in with some really unique picks, and there's actually a lot more than you'd expect. Starting off with the comebacks from Modern Warfare 2019, we have the RAL MG and the RPK. RAL MG I wasn't expecting as much because it was a DLC weapon, but the RPK, I knew the AK was in the game, so it was kind of just expected to have the RPK. But other than those two, we actually have some really cool picks for the LMGs this year. We have like the Negev from CSGO, which it's called something else in this game, an M4 LMG, which is really crazy, the 5.56 Icarus. We also have the G3 LMG, or the RAP H, and my favorite of the entire game, the AUG H-bar, which many of you might not know is actually a comeback from the original MW2. But that's enough of the tangent on how much I like the picks for the LMGs. Difficulty wise, this is another easy class. One major thing that made this class so easy was when the game launched, Invasion was the best way to farm weapon XP, and there is nothing easier than loading a 200 round magazine and just farming bots out of choppers for the entire game. And pretty much all of these things just absolutely shred players. So stuff like long shots, 3 kills without dying, anything like that was super easy. Overall, the only thing that was really holding the LMGs back is they're just not very mobile, which for some people I get isn't an issue. A lot of people do play a bit slower, but for someone like me who just likes to run around the map, it really does kind of kill it a little bit. So plugging the LMGs into our tier list, it would be S, but the mobility does kill it a little bit, so we're going to push it down to A. And now onto one of the classes that I think is going to be the hardest to rank. Now, the Marksman Rifles are a bit of a weird class to rank on this tier list because it can basically kind of be divided into two separate classes. Because on one hand, you have the one-shot rifles, and on the other hand, you have stuff that is a bit more akin to the battle rifles. But to avoid making this video complicated, I'm going to rank them as an overall class and just kind of combine the difficulty of the two. But overall with the weapons, none of them are super unique. This probably has the most repeats from Modern Warfare 2019, having the EBR, the lever action, and the SPR, and all three of those guns basically behave identically to what they did in Modern Warfare 2019, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, all three of the guns were good. There's only really 3 unique weapons in the class, and that is the SAB, the TAC-M, and the PSG, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, repeats are okay. It just doesn't leave me a whole lot to talk about. I'll go ahead and talk about the semi-autos first. So this is the guns that do not one-shot in this class. Overall, they're not very good. While most of them do have like a really reliable 2-shot kill. They fire really slow, so it doesn't necessarily give you a really good time to kill. If I had to pick a go-to of these three, I would probably go with the EBR just because it seems to have the most reliable 2-shot. And even though it doesn't fire the fastest, that reliable 2-shot will definitely get you a lot farther than something like the PSG, which while it does have a faster fire rate, its 2-shot kill is not as consistent. Now on the opposite end of that spectrum, the bolt actions or the one-shots in this class absolutely shred people. The SPR is universally considered one of the best guns in the game, and right behind it, especially in the sniping community, the SAB is absolutely loved because it has a really good one-shot and is fast. And in the same vein, the MK2 is also really fast with a good one-shot. And that's why I feel like this class will be so hard to rank, because on one end you got some really mid-tier guns, but on the other end you have some of the best guns in the game. So I feel like, to be fair to the whole class, plugging it into the tier list, I'm gonna throw it right in the middle at C, because while the one-shots do make it a bit easy, these more mid-tier weapons really do kind of drag down the fun and make it a bit more difficult. And now it's time to move on to my favorite class in the game. So I know a lot of people who watch my videos probably aren't snipers, so my opinion is probably going to differ a lot from yours. And I really want to talk about some of the picks they had for the game this year. For the last few years, snipers have really been kind of hit or miss. There's usually either not enough or just some really boring picks. And this year I think they've really stepped it up with a couple comebacks that I'm really excited about and some original ones that aren't too bad. With the original, they gave us the MCPR, which is pretty much just a bolt action Barrett. And this might be a little bit iffy for some of you, but the LAB in this game is a lot different than what it was in Modern Warfare 2019, at least in my opinion. And for the returns, we have the Signal 50, which is actually the Lynx from Ghost. And my favorite sniper of all time, if you've been following my channel, then you would know this is my favorite sniper of all time. They gave us the SPX, which many of you might know as the MSR from Modern Warfare 3. And I'm not gonna lie, as soon as I saw that they brought back the MSR, that was major brownie points for me. This game couldn't have been bad in my opinion. But enough of my little tangent about the weapons. Let's get into the difficulty. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm a bit more of an aggressive player, so I do run around with the snipers. And the snipers this year are actually really good for quick scoping and that type of play style. So most of the challenges are actually super easy. The only one you might have a little bit of trouble with is probably the LAB, since it is probably the slowest base sniper in the game. This might just be a me thing, but honestly, I never really felt like I could get my shot properly on with it. But other than the LAB, all the other snipers are really nice and clean. You know, they're fast and they have a decent fire rate, so you're never really in too much situations where you can't compete. And obviously they're snipers, the long shots are just a breeze. So plugging this into the tier list, in my personal opinion, the snipers are pretty easy, so I'm gonna throw them in A. I'm gonna skip over the riot shield for now, and we're gonna hop right into the secondaries with the pistols. So the pistols are a very small and samey class, so there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about with this. Pretty much all the pistols are about the exact same weapon. Once you've used one, you've pretty much used them all. The only really notable exception to this is the revolver, which is essentially a pocket sniper rifle. Other than that though, not a particularly interesting class, and not really a difficult one either. Honestly, one of the weakest classes in the game gun selection wise, so when you're going for the camo, it's really going to feel super boring, and that's really the worst part about doing the pistols. So to avoid repeating the same thing over and over, plugging our pistols into the tier list, I'm probably going to have to throw them in D, just because the boringness with this class is really going to get you. And now on to our second to last class in the game. Once again, we have a very boring class to go for the final camo with. The launchers are always something in the final camo grind that you always kind of just do in the background. They really add nothing to the camo grind other just to be there and be really annoying to deal with. They're not even really interesting enough to even go into detail with. I mean, all the launchers are pretty much the exact same. So this is going to be a very short and sweet ranking. Plugging these launchers in the tier list, this is the first easy F of the entire video because there is nothing to say and they're only incredibly annoying. And last and most certainly least, we have the melees. Now, while the melees are a bit more fun to go for than something like the launchers, they definitely come with their own issues. And this is arguably the most annoying class in the entire game to go for over one weapon. And that is the riot shield. The riot shield is hands down the most boring, slow, obnoxious weapon to get gold in the entire game. If this class was just the knife, I wouldn't have too many complaints. It would still be boring and a little bit annoying to go for, but it it definitely would not be as bad as it is with the riot shield. Honestly, one of the reasons I got Orion done within the first couple weeks of the game is when I was going for the riot shield, I ran into a couple other camo grinders, and we were talking in chat, and they knew we were both going for camos, so they just let me kill them a couple times, and they were honestly some lifesavers. The riot shield in Modern Warfare 2019 was the least fun I ever had grinding for a camo, and while it's not that bad in this game, it definitely is just one of the most obnoxious, boring things to go for. And so I think you guys know the melees in this game, the knife can't hold it up. The melees are going straight to F. So that is it. That is our final tier list for Orion. Just coming in here with this little outro, thanking you guys all for being so patient. I know it's been a really long time since my last upload. Don't really know what the next is going to be. I've been working on a year in Vanguard, but I do feel like that people are more interested in Modern Warfare 2 right now. But I just wanted to thank all of you guys for stopping by and checking this video out. Any support would be appreciated. You know, it's a really good motivation booster when I see that people really enjoy the videos. But I'm not going to drag this video out to be any longer than it already is. This is a really long upload for me. So one last time, thank you guys all for stopping by and checking this video out, and I'll see you guys in the next time.
I've been at it on my own time now.